When a 29-year-old American woman was told by her closest colleague at work that he was off to vote with my Maga hat and my big old flag, she initially thought it was a joke. "We've gone out with our other coworkers for happy hour. I invited him to my wedding next year. He confided in me about his mother's health, and overall, we've built a great rapport. So I thought we saw eye to eye on everything," she wrote on an internet forum. Once she realized he was serious, she wasn't sure how to continue the working relationship. "I have this feeling in the pit of my stomach that I won't be able to look past his political leaning. I feel uncomfortable, and I'm not sure how to talk to him going forward." It's a conundrum felt by many American workers. According to a poll of 1,000 U.S. workers by software company Resume Now, 91% have witnessed or experienced political clashes in the workplace, and 81% of respondents said that workplace tensions have risen since Donald Trump was elected. Half of those polled said they now avoid collaborating with colleagues who hold opposing views. In recent months, the workplace has seen rising tensions, largely stemming from political divisions, says Keith Spencer, a career expert at Resume Now. He thinks increased polarization, 24/7 access to news and social media, and economic uncertainty are all fueling the problem. He points to some extreme examples of workplace politics affecting bosses' behavior. Last month, an employee at the Federal Emergency Management Agency was fired after allegedly telling a disaster relief team working in Florida after Hurricane Milton to avoid homes displaying election campaign signs supporting Trump. The conflict turned into open division, where workers felt forced to pick sides based on political affiliation, impacting their ability to do their jobs effectively, adds Spencer. There are also fears that Trump's anti-immigration stance has emboldened extremists, heightening tensions at work. A real estate agent was sacked last week after writing on a bill for a waiter at a Mexican restaurant in Ohio, "I hope Trump deports you." A GoFundMe fundraiser for the waiter had raised more than $22,000, £17,000 at the time of writing. Spencer believes workplace conflict will only deepen. This issue has gotten worse in recent weeks, and it's reasonable to assume that it could continue to worsen as more changes are made and new executive orders are issued, he says. It was the tech billionaires who joined the battle first, after Elon Musk and some of his allies endorsed Trump during the presidential race in defiance of the industry's wider liberal leanings. As Roger McNamee, a Silicon Valley venture capitalist, told the New York Times last summer, "Until a year or two ago, there was something like an omerta in Silicon Valley. People had fights all the time, and leaders would disagree, but you wouldn't disagree in public. Bickering in public has continued since, trickling through to the wider workforce. Tell him you vehemently disagree with his support for Trump," one person advises the 29-year-old who feels awkward that her colleague backs Trump. Teachers have taken to social media to discuss tension in the staff room, saying that they are avoiding Trump-supporting colleagues or feeling shocked that some, such as the very nice art teacher who plays guitar, pulled out a Teachers for Trump t-shirt. Staff on both sides of the political divide describe feeling sidelined at work. As one person writes on Reddit, "I have a boss who sends me pro-Trump videos via group text. My office work environment is Maga. I gave my opinion recently, how I wasn't pro-Maga. Now I feel they are treating me differently. Yet experiences can vary hugely from industry to industry. Many confess to living in a liberal bubble. Large American banks are not natural Trump supporters," says one bank executive. A science researcher and an artist agree. There is no political tension because they work in an echo chamber. Others say that in an environment of fear, things are kept deliberately apolitical. A government employee says everyone is just scared for their jobs, and so they keep the conversation civil. Attempts to censor conversation at work are not new. Politics has been an issue inside America's offices for years, although efforts from businesses to ban political chat has previously backfired. About a third of staff at American software company Basecamp resigned after it announced a ban on talking politics at work in 2021, mirroring the reaction from some workers at cryptocurrency startup Coinbase, when it unveiled a similar ban a year earlier. The war in Gaza also led to deepening tensions between employees, forcing Google to change its internal message board MemeGen last year after discussions grew so tense that people felt they were being bullied. In Silicon Valley, young adults facing rising anti-Semitism at work last year started meeting up with other professionals to discuss how to navigate hostile colleagues. American giants, such as Google, once urged staff to bring their whole selves to work. Now, bosses who fear they have a divided workforce are hoping that staff might keep a little more to themselves. Britain is determined to deepen its unique defense relationship with the U.S. in a world where threats are increasing, the defense secretary has said. John Healey insisted that the U.S. would continue to work with the U.K. on intelligence sharing in the face of the rising Russian aggression in Europe. His words will start to ease concerns within the defense community, after many had expressed concern that Europe would struggle with the U.S. pulling back from NATO because it relies so heavily on intelligence sharing. Europe has become dependent on the U.S. in many spheres, including intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, ISR, and satellite communications, which provide data for integrated air and missile defense and long-range strikes. Mr. Healey met his counterpart, Pete Hegseth, at the Pentagon on Thursday to provide a diplomatic bridge between the U.S. and Europe as the two work to secure a peace deal for Ukraine. Writing in The Telegraph, Mr. Healey revealed that his meeting with the U.S. Defense Secretary overran by half an hour because there was so much to discuss, which he said was because the UK and US are each other's closest security allies. Mr. Healey wrote, "In a world where threats are increasing, I am determined to deepen our unique defense relationship with the US still further in the months and years ahead. No two militaries are more woven together than ours. We will continue to collaborate closely on military operations, exercising, intelligence gathering, and the development of advanced technologies." The meeting followed Donald Trump's suspension of military aid and intelligence sharing with Ukraine after a disastrous meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky at the Oval Office. The controversial decision came after Mr. Trump called on Europe to shoulder more of the burden in Ukraine. Mr. Healey told Mr. Hegseth in their meeting that the UK had risen to that challenge. Mr. Healey said it was this week in 1946 that Sir Winston Churchill defined the meaning of special relationship between the UK and America, which he said existed principally in the bonds of military partnership. On March 5, 1946, Churchill gave a speech in Fulton, Missouri, at the invitation of Harry Truman, the U.S. president at the time. Churchill spoke of an Iron Curtain having descended across the European continent, and the importance of a special relationship between the UK and the US in the face of Soviet expansionism. Reflecting on these words, Mr. Healey said it was the uniquely close bonds between the two countries' armed forces that make our nations safer and more secure. Mr. Healey said the focus of Thursday's meeting was to secure a lasting peace in Ukraine and strengthen the UK and US militaries and the NATO alliance. He wrote, "As global threats increase, our national security and our economic security are both at stake." From deepening our US-UK relationship to striving for peace in Europe and ensuring the benefits of increasing defense investment are felt here at home, Britain is committed to leading from the front to secure our future. He added, "We're in full agreement that we must continue the push for peace in the days ahead. And that peace must last, allowing no return to Russian aggression. Banning Andrew Tate content could cost the government trade with the United States," a former culture secretary has warned. Baroness Nikki Morgan said any move against the controversial social media influencer could become unstuck amid Donald Trump's desire to step back from regulation of social media platforms. She added that campaigners for the Online Safety Act were now worried it could be used for bargaining during trade negotiations with Washington. The law, which regulates online speech, is thought to be heavily disliked by Mr. Trump's administration because it can levy massive fines on U.S. tech companies. However, Baroness Morgan said any consideration by the UK government to rework the online harm laws to avoid tariffs would be a huge retrograde step. Speaking on BBC Radio 4's Today program about whether trade consequences would follow any move against Tate, she said, "There could be, and I think what worries a lot of us now who campaigned for the Online Safety Act is that actually the act itself could be up as part of the bargaining on the trade deal. For the very reason that President Trump appears to want to take a step back from regulation of the platforms, and they're allowing him to do that. That will be, I think, a huge retrograde step." She said the UK had done the right thing in bringing the act into force, and that it was just the starting point in regulation of the social media companies. Fueled by misogyny. Her comments came after it emerged Kyle Clifford had watched Tate's videos before murdering and raping his ex-partner and also killing her sister and mother. The former soldier was said to be fueled by misogyny as he killed Louise Hunt, 25, her 28-year-old sister Hannah, and their mother Carol, 61, in a knife and crossbow attack at their home in Bushey, Hertfordshire, in July last year. Tate, 38, is a British-American former kickboxer who has millions of followers online. He and his brother Tristan, 36, face charges in the UK of rape and human trafficking. They deny the allegations and earlier this week left Romania for the U.S., where Florida's Attorney General has launched a criminal investigation into them. Baroness Morgan added that Clifford's case and revelations of him watching Tate proved so-called legal content can be absolutely, deeply, deeply harmful to others and transfer to physical offline harm. Ken McDonald, the former director of public prosecutions, said that a lot of what Tate says online is illegal. If he's encouraging this sort of behavior, he's breaking UK criminal law, and he ought to be held accountable for it. And I'm afraid at the moment, he hasn't been held accountable for it, he added. On the potential risk of worsened trade with the US, Lord MacDonald said, "I think this is a very sinister development, and I think we need to hold the line. This is bullying. It's the tech bros, as we like to call them now, becoming completely out of control and deciding they are going to order what nation states can do and can't do, and that's intolerable."